we got some wins. No more sad, dopey Jason Confused Basketball Podcast.
Oh.
We're back after wins over the Wizards and Suns. I am Jeremiah Broderick. Joining me as always, Matt Nislinski. First game, Celtics beat the sorry Wizards. I think this game is important for only one reason, and one reason only. When, future historians and experts look back on this nothing of an NBA game.
Which they will.
Which they will. The scientists of a future era will come back and study these box scores. And this game will be important for one reason only. It was the game Jason Tatum's super secret minutes restriction went from 27 to 32 minutes a game.
Yep.
For me, that's the only thing that mattered. We won. That kind of matters. I always kind of assumed we were going to win over the Wizards, but knowing that Jason Tatum is progressing behind the scenes, definitely still on a minutes restriction, but it's getting bigger, does matter a little bit. Also, the kind of superstitious side of me is glad we got a bad three-point shooting game out of the way. I think we shot 26% from three in this game, so it's nice just to have one of the bad ones versus a team we were going to beat anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It still was closer than I would have liked. We ended up beating them, I want to say, by 11. But on a game where we didn't shoot our best, didn't overall play our best, but happy to get a win there. If we had not, the tone of this episode would probably be very different.
Yeah, I mean, this was 5 days ago against the Washington Wizards, and it would still sting a little bit. Neemias Queta had a good game.
He was going
Anything
for that 84.
Else?
No, I mean, I think something that we'll talk about. Jason Tatum struggled from the three-point line. It seems like he's just still getting his footing back under him. I know that in our previous episode we had talked about, and this was going way back to the Spurs game, it looks like he's altering his three-point shot a little bit to avoid contact. I didn't see it as much against the Wizards or the Suns. His form looked pretty solid, but still not sinking them at quite the rate that we're used to from Jason Tatum. So that's just something I'm keeping an eye on moving forward. But outside of that, it was fun to see Nemi get 22 in the first half. Only 2 in the second half. When I saw 22 in the first half, I was like, all right, so he's going for something. We're going to get maybe not 84, but Bam Adebayo, watch your back. But I think that was just an easy, fun, comfortable win for us, which I think we kind of needed after the back-to-back losses against the Spurs and OKC.
Yeah, the Suns game was a little bit more important to me, just because that was a team that was actually trying against us. Devin Booker's a real NBA star scorer. They were mostly healthy other than Dylan Brooks. Not that they're the cream of the crop, but they were a well-coached, deep basketball team that was trying, and we were still able to beat them. It was one of the first games I've seen this year where kind of our big four were all rolling. Jaylen Brown got 41, Jason Tatum and Derek White each got 21, and then Peyton Pritchard got 19 off the bench. And when all 4 of those guys are hitting shots and being aggressive, I just think it's really hard to stop this team.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely, there were more in-game takeaways. I thought, again, Devin Booker always plays the Celtics pretty well. And so it was good he still got to, I think, 39 or 40 points. So it was good to see us still take the win in a game where he played well. I think the defensive intensity in that game was a lot better. Forcing some takeaways. Probably the play of the game was Jaylen Brown stealing the ball from Devin Booker and leading a fast break, passing behind him to Tatum for an easy layup. And I know in the post-game, Tatum was like, yeah, that felt like old times. And that's kind of what it feels like, where you're talking about this big four, that we have this core that's been around since before the championship. Does kind of feel like they found their rhythm in that game and were all able to play well together, play well off of each other. When it was clear that Jaylen Brown had the hot hand, nobody had any problems just being yeah, it's your ball, make it happen. So it was just fun to see that. I think Jaylen Brown becomes the 4th Celtic ever to have 6 40-plus point games in a season, joining Bird, Pierce, and Tatum. So, again, just fun to see as this team is kind of coming together, and outside of Vucevic fully healthy, still seeing Jaylen Brown being able to lead the team at that level, and just the variety of weapons that we have on offense.
It was also the first time we saw a Jason Tatum at center lineup since he's come back. And that's one that we saw a lot last season, mainly against smaller teams and in closing lineups. But I think that's going to be an important look once we get into playoff time. If we're going up against teams that kind of go small at the end, and if we really want to get our best five or a best shooting lineup out there, it's going to need to be like a Sam Hauser, Jason Tatum are our bigs lineup. And it was kind of nice to see that we're willing to do that again. Since Jason Tatum's come back, it seems like they want him playing a little bit more of a perimeter game. And even against the Suns, I think Jaylen Brown primarily guarded the other team's center when we went small. But it's still nice to see that look. Maybe this is a dumb basketball take of me. Let me know if this is a dumb take. Because I've
Well,
heard this for years.
yeah.
And normally when I hear a take for years and like Joe Mazzulla and Brad Stevens never listen to it, it's because it's just like a dumb thing people say. Why have we never seen a Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum pick and roll? Because during this Suns game, we kept running two sets. One of which was Jaylen Brown handles the ball, Sam Hauser sets a pick. And then on the next play, we would run Derek White handles the ball, Jason Tatum sets the pick. So, like, one of those guys is consistently a ball handler in pick and roll, and one is consistently a screener in pick and roll, and they're our best two players. But I can't think of one time I've ever seen that play run. Is this just like a 2K fantasy basketball take?
It might be. I mean, I think I've seen it a little bit in the past. It has definitely seemed like, if I had to guess, right, I would say in theory it's because we want two centers of gravity on different parts of the floor, where like the defenders are going to swarm to the best players, which on our team are Jaylen Brown and are Jason Tatum. If we run pick and roll with those two guys, each of them is, at least one of them is probably bringing us a second guy, or in this case, like a third guy, which I think clogs the lane in a way that isn't conducive for pick and roll. It would probably open up more shooting opportunities. I think in the past, maybe Jalen's ball handling and playmaking wasn't at a
Yeah.
level where we were able to like maximize that. This season, I think he's shown that like if Jalen has the ball and Tatum is coming over for a screen, and one of them has a double team coming, and there are three defenders collapsing on these two. I now trust both of those guys, whoever has the ball, a little bit more to find the open shooter or to just make a good pass and swing to an open shooter. Again,
Because
I
in the
feel like
past, you're right. Like in the past, the playbook was always, well, just force Jaylen Brown to go left, and then he's going to dribble left, and that's going to be the worst thing for our offense. He seems to be able to dribble with both hands now, and all season he's been able to. And when you talk about gravity, if three swarm to a Tatum Brown pick and roll, and the other three guys on the floor, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and Sam Hauser,
there's no good options for the defense. Yeah.
I'm fine with any of those guys taking a catch and shoot three. Those might be like the three most dangerous guys, definitely on our team, but like in the Eastern Conference, to be your like three wide open catch and shoot guys. I also just know that Joe Mazzulla is smarter than me and knows way more about basketball. So like there's no way that the answer could be this simple. But I still haven't seen why that can't be the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I do think part of it is up until, a couple games ago, we didn't have the option, or in past seasons when we did have the option, it was like I didn't trust Jaylen Brown's left hand that much. And obviously, he's mentioned this year, like he dealt with a wrist injury that like never really healed right. And he finally like got that checked out, and he's been much more comfortable, not just dribbling with his left, but finishing with his left, going to the basket with his left hand. And so, again, it seems like that's something that may not have been the ideal basketball play from our perspective in years past. It feels like now would be a cool time to unleash it and just watch the devastation and the chaos. Because I will say the other takeaway I had from these two games was Jason Tatum looked very comfortable driving to the lane,
The
getting to the
scoop layup
basket,
is back.
the scoop layup with either hand on either side of the rim. And so that's a huge element. And I think you saw it just in terms of, especially in that Suns game, just how it opens up the floor for everybody else when Jason Tatum is, again, I'm still looking at the 3-point shot, but it feels like he is way more back than I expected him to be at this point. He's looking, if I had to put a number on it, like 90% plus Jason Tatum. And if he's got that going for him, just the opportunities it opens up, if he's getting physical, if he's getting to the basket on drives, just the catch and shoot game is going to become more important. But I think we're in a good spot right now, and that isn't even talking about Neemias Queta, who I'm just going to bring it back one more time. The big ignition scored the first points in that Phoenix game, guaranteed us the win, which is great to see. And his
Do you want to
continuing like
explain your big ignition theory? Because I don't know that everybody is that deep into the Jays and Confused lore.
yeah, so I'm gonna bring it back. This is a theory that I put out probably like 2 months ago. And I think the evidence has continued to bear it out since then. When I first brought it up, the Celtics were like 11-4 when Neemias Queta scored the first points of the game for us. Whether or not the other team scored first didn't really matter. If Neemias Queta scores the first points for us, we tend to win those games. And so that's something that every single game, when I'm watching, I am paying special attention to who scores the first basket for the Celtics. Because if it's Neemias Queta, with very few exceptions, I think Denver was one exception recently where we did end up losing that game. For the most part, if Queta is scoring the first bucket, I'm chalking that one up. So I've been
No, that
calling him
makes
the
sense.
big ignition because when he gets going first, he ignites the whole team, the whole offense, the whole defense, the whole shebang.
It makes sense for a few reasons. I think Neemias Queta is one a very matchup dependent player. Like versus the Wizards, he was 24, 10, and 3, 2 blocks, um, 1 steal. Then against Phoenix, he was 5, 3, and 6. So we've seen like the games where he has it going, and it does seem like he knows when he has it going very early. And I think a lot of it's just like, is he 3 inches, 3 to 7 inches taller than the guy guarding him? And when he is, he's going to have a great night.
Would be an advantage in a professional basketball game. I will also say, like, 6 assists against Phoenix was not nothing. I think that
That's true.
definitely helped to open up our offense, and if he's able to kind of continue his playmaking out of that role, out of the low post, that should be just another weapon that we have.
Yeah, he was solid in that game, I thought, defensively, and the passing was big. 3 rebounds from your starting center is a little not ideal. I think we were able to kind of make up for it with Tatum out there, just give us a little bit more size. A few months ago, if Neemias Queta has 3 rebounds, we probably lose that game. But yeah, I think when we start a game and it's clear that Queta has energy and is like going at his guy, it tends to be a great game for us.
Yeah, and I will just about the rebounding. Tatum and Brown both ended up leading the team in rebounds with 7. There weren't that many other guys, like outside of the Kata had 3, Derek White and Sam Hauser had 4. Pritchard had 4, Shireman had 5. Just kind of a testament to how untraditional this season has been for the Celtics, where we don't have like a center and a backup center, and those guys get 65, 70% of all of our rebounds. Like, this is one of the most complete, like, team rebounding seasons I've seen from any franchise. Where you can have a night where our centers aren't grabbing the boards, but it's fine because out of nowhere, Baylor Shireman can go grab you 8. Jaylen Brown can go grab you 9. Peyton Pritchard is a dog, and he will go get some rebounds every game. But I think
There's the
just like a
Baylor Shireman games where they'll just get 12 out of nowhere. Like, it
yeah,
was
and so
clearly a
having that,
problem the first week of the season, and I think they definitely talked about we need to find a way to fix this. And every game, it's a different solution. And their ability to kind of find those solutions game to game has been unexpectedly huge.
yeah, and I don't remember exactly when in the season it developed because rebounding was kind of our Achilles heel earlier on in the season. As the season's progressed, the team rebounding has grown to such a level and everybody has contributed. I think part of that is having these young energy guys who just want to compete and are gonna go for every rebound. But I will point out, like, our two centers, the two closest guys we have to 7 feet tall, got a combined total of 6 rebounds, and we still out rebounded Phoenix. I believe, I mean, total, but also I think on the offensive board. They got us by 1 on the offensive boards. But if you can beat another team when your bigs aren't rebounding in the rebounding column, you're doing a solid job. And that's something that the Celtics, especially these past few months, have really like figured out. I think part of that is we're seeing longer rebounds coming off the rim from jump shot attempts, but also just more fundamental stuff, more boxing out, which I know there's nothing that drives Joe Mazzulla crazier than us not boxing out and the other team creating a possession off of that. So it seems like they've really learned some lessons throughout the year that I think will carry them through as long as they go in the playoffs.
Did Phoenix feel small to you when we played them? Because I understand they had a Malawatch out there who's like 7 foot. A lot of their wings and perimeter players are like 5'5" and under. And I felt like maybe
Five
we
five.
didn't,
I
yeah,
think they're at least
no, 6'5".
6'5".
6'5" and under. But like Haywood Highsmith can't guard Jaylen Brown. And he was kind of their best option on him all game. I think that's part
Highsmith had a decent game, but again, just did
shooting
not have
wise,
the
he was
size.
lights
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a great defender on twos, very switchable. Like, he's a good player, but to be guarding Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown all game as, like, the primary wing stopper on a team, you can see they're definitely missing Dylan Brooks. Like, when this team was constructed, they thought they would have, like, a 6'8", just, like, all NBA, all defensive guy out there. Did this feel like a makeup game free throw wise, or were just people whacking Jaylen Brown? Because the free throws were really what got him to that 41.
Yeah, so I think he gave a post-game interview where he's like, I think that's the most free throws I've ever shot in my life. I don't know if that's statistically true, but it did
It
feel like
was.
it.
It was career
Yeah,
high in attempts and makes by a lot.
yeah. I don't know that it's necessarily a makeup game for anything in particular in terms of like the Spurs game that he got ejected from or anything like that. I think it may be we're getting closer to the end of the season. Ward's talk is starting to heat up. More and more attention is going to get focused on Jaylen Brown for what he's done for this franchise throughout the year. And I do feel like there has to be some pressure on the refs to be like, yeah, he's going to be in the top two, top three, top four, top five conversation for MVP, and we've been letting him get the shit kicked out of him all year. I do think that's a bad look for the NBA when Shea gets a whistle every time the breeze blows. And so I think maybe it's more of a less like an individual, hey, we're going to pick this game to even it out, and more of what are the calls that we haven't been giving him all year, and how many of those would we give to somebody else? I'm hoping that trend continues because I will say, like, there are few guys in the league who I think get robbed of more whistles. Like, throughout this season, it feels like at least once a week we're like, yeah, Jalen just got like clotheslined. And it happens maybe not every game, but at least once a week. And he just hasn't had the whistle this year that he's deserved. And again, I'm not someone who advocates for more fouls being called. I don't want more ticky tacky calls. I'd like to let those guys just play through contact, but when you're not holding Luca or SGA or some of the other top scorers in the league to that standard, it's not fair to hold Jaylen Brown to that standard.
Because it did feel like he had a lot of smaller guys on him, and they were just draped over him whenever he went to the rim. So I don't think they were like undeserved fouls at all. And I mean, against the Spurs, Castle was able to kind of stay with him and stay in front of him a little better, even though there were some like touch fouls that went by. He did get the I'm going to elbow Colin Gillespie in the face as I go up for a mid-ranger call a few times.
Mhm.
Um, and if that shot, like I've said before, if that shot's going, Jaylen Brown is the most unstoppable player in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think that shot is kind of, we've talked about these past couple weeks, it seems like they've eased off on calling that mid-range jumper foul that he like really grew reliant on throughout the early part of the season as he was. I mean, there were games where it felt like 90% of Jalen's shots were in that mid range area, and every one of them we felt very confident was going in. Like he was just an assassin from that area. And he had talked about going back to previous seasons, like they're jumping into my airspace in the mid range and you're doing nothing about it, the verticality. As he's gotten less of those calls throughout the season, it also feels like he's been spending less time in the mid range. Sometimes you gotta elbow Colin Gillespie in the face just to see what the refs are gonna do.
Well, it's like it's the play where he dribbles low, so he kind of like gets his body into the guy's hip. Then while the guy's bent over, he pulls up. And it's like the guy is in his airspace, but because he manipulated him to be there. And that's either a call or it's not. And so far this season, it's been very game to game whether it is or isn't. And it's kind of important to Jaylen Brown's offense if that's a foul or not.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is going to be definitely a topic of discussion once we get to the playoffs, where refs generally have a longer leash and are willing to tolerate more stuff in terms of physicality. I think we're gonna see Jaylen Brown get frustrated in those first few playoff games when that whistle doesn't go his way. I think the only thing that like balances it out is other guys who are more reliant on getting a whistle are also hopefully not going to be getting the special treatment they've gotten throughout the regular season, as the NBA just lets them play through more contact because it does make for more exciting basketball, especially in the playoffs.
And we saw a few games during last year's playoff where Shea's whistle kind of went away. But, he had Jalen Williams and Chet. Like, it helps to have other scoring options in the lineup
Yeah.
when that, like, old, reliable, get into a guy's body, get a foul play stops working. So I think that's why a lot of kind of playoff success for this team is going to depend on Jason Tatum, Derek White, to be able to score efficiently off of Jalen. Do you have anything else on these games? These were not the most exciting 2 wins of the year, I'm gonna say.
Agree with that. Not the two most exciting. I will say, again, just Jason Tatum looking way more comfortable. Just the amount of rebounds that he's getting. I believe he got his season average for the year, scoring wise, is probably pretty close to 20 by now. Again, in like 6 games or something like that. But that's if he's able to maintain that or improve upon that going into the playoffs, like that's huge for us. His rebounding, like the help he gives us on the glass, especially for a team that right now is missing Vucevic. We should get an update in, I want to say, like 1 or 2 weeks on his timeline. But just what he's able to provide on that end, and then he's getting the assists. But the fact that he's like, you can pencil him in for at least like 15, 5, and 3, and it's usually going to be much better than that. That's a very valuable thing to add. So these 2 games prove that, I feel like. And again, just him, I think the ease with which he deferred to Jaylen Brown when Jaylen was getting going in this Suns game was also welcoming to see.
He's also getting open a lot more than he
Yeah.
was in past years. Like, he only made he went 2 for 8 from three in this game, which I have full faith the jump shot's coming back. Like, that's a classic kind of rust coming back from injury. But his looks were just wide open. Like, it would be off a Jaylen Brown ISO, swing, swing. Nobody's within 10 feet of him. And just visually, that looked insane to me. Because normally when I see Jason Tatum shoot a jumper from three, there's like 5 guys jumping at him. And he's the center of what the defense is looking at. So just seeing him with that much space was weird looking almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's promising if that kind of trend continues. And I think part of it is we have so many threats all over the floor, whether it's floor spacers like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard or Sam Hauser, obviously, whether it's cutters like Hugo Gonzalez or Jordan Walsh or Neemias Queta. I think just he's going to be able to keep finding room. The ease with which and again, one of the big conversations leading up to his return was how will he be able to incorporate himself into the offense? I think what these two
That
games
was
showed,
always
if
dumb.
anything, is like very seamlessly. Like he looks better in this offense than he did in last year's offense because it's not coming from him. Shots are coming to him. And I think that's a very big difference. And again, as he's still shaking off that rust, I think that's making his life a whole lot easier. And hopefully making his like return to 100% form, rhythm, like feeling confident in that 3-point jump shot, especially. Like we're doing him a lot of favors in the way that we play. And I think that's something that is going to continue.
I never liked the how is he gonna be able to fit with Jaylen Brown
Yeah, that
discussion.
was
Like
silly.
there's always been legitimate questions about him coming back. How much ball handling does he do? Is he at 100%? What's his health look like? How long does it take for the rust to come off? But everyone brought back the can these guys play together too early. They've been playing
Yeah.
together for almost a decade now and have had more success than any other duo in the league. That's my spiel on it. I wanted to talk Neemias Queta for a sec.
The big ignition, I believe he's
The
called.
Big Ignition, aka the Big Ignition, aka the Portuguese Punisher. I've been hearing a lot of Celtics Twitter and other Celtics podcasts throw out that Neemias Queta is a top 10 NBA center. Top 10, top 12.
Mhm.
And it's been making me feel like a bit of a hater. recently. Because, listen, before the season, I was very high. I was early on Neemias Queta. I was like, he can
You
be a
were.
starting NBA center from day one. He had good run last year. He clearly has the tools. I spent way too much time figuring out, because if you say Neemias Queta is a top 10 center, then there can't be 10 centers better than him. So I spent way too much time coming up with this list. I think I have him at 17th, which is that's
17.
I have him as the 17th best center in the NBA.
Okay.
And that's a good center. There's only 30 starting jobs in the league. This means he's average for a starter. And on a minimum contract, that's insane value. Like, he's definitely a top 5 value contract at the position. So before I was to get into the list, where did you have Neemias Queta? So I asked you to figure out a ranking before the episode.
Had him floating between 12 and 15, and I wanted to see your list to figure out where we deviated. I thought you would have him higher than me, honestly.
Really?
You've been the biggest Kata guy all year.
He's good.
He's
17 is good.
fantastic.
I will die on the hill that being the 17th best center in the world is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I looked at it and said, how high could I get him? 12, 13 was like, if I really wanted, like the most homer take I could have would be like 12, 13. So now this is
And
just
by
centers.
homer, do you mean that he's an advanced stats darling?
That's true. He is an advanced stats star. So I left out power forwards. So if you played
That's
majority
where
of
I
your
was like,
minutes at power forward, so I left Chet out, I left Draymond out. Like there's a few guys that could play center. They're not on this list. I kept guys who have had some injuries. Like if you've only played some games, I'm kind of giving a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But if you're
yep,
injured all season, like Walker Kessler wasn't considered. Okay, so stop me when I get to a guy that is not as good as Neemias Queta. So
this season alone.
this season, Neemias Queta, Victor Wembanyama, Bam Adebayo.
You did start
What?
with Neemias Queta.
Oh,
You said
sorry, Nikola
Neemias Queta.
I meant to
Nikola
say
Jokic
Nikola
is better. I'm not
Jokic.
going to argue that one. Yeah.
Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Bam Adebayo, Jalen Duren, Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns. Are you
You
stalking
said
me
if
already?
guys are somewhat injured. Anthony Davis is a better basketball player than Neemias
Yeah.
Queta. Do you want to do a side by side on how many games each of them has played?
Well, first off, Anthony Davis is faking an injury, so I didn't know how to count that exactly.
Yeah, I'm not putting him on this list because Neemias Queta has played more than 3 times as many games. Anthony Davis has played 20 games this season. Neemias Queta has played 64. That right there, yeah, you're a top center in the league when you play a quarter of the season. Like, that's
See,
crazy to me.
that's fair.
Talent-wise, 100%. 100% healthy Anthony
I
Davis
think when
is
they're
way better than
healthy,
Neemias
Anthony
Queta.
Davis is clearly a better center. I don't know how to judge this one just because I don't think it's Anthony Davis's fault. He got traded to a team that pulled him out. Like, I think he probably would have ended up playing 50 games if he was for a
Did he
contender.
not also show up to camp overweight and out of shape and immediately get injured? Because
That's
that feels like
Texas
it was a little
barbecue's
bit his.
fault.
I
That's
you
the
can blame
fault of
Texas
delicious
barbecue in
Texas
New
barbecue.
Orleans, it's gumbo, but listen, at the end of the day, like the dude's making $50 million a year. Like he can get a chef.
Okay, you want to take 80 off the list? We can take 80 off the list.
Again, not arguing talent, but this season, one of the biggest abilities is availability. And Anthony Davis doesn't have it, has never really had it, or at least like, I don't know.
Now,
When you play 20 games out of 82, it's tough to be like,
how do you
yeah,
feel
that's a
about...
top 10 center.
Because I also had Joel Embiid on the list. And
Joel
I felt...
Embiid I'm more okay with because he
Because that was
has
like
come
44
back.
games.
Yeah.
44 games, averaging 27 and 7.
Yeah, the rebounding is a little weird, but the scoring is still there. The defense, he's a step slower, but he's still, a defensive anchor. Joel, I'm more okay with. Because I
Okay.
also, this is like a weird side thing, but I feel like Joel wants to play, and Anthony Davis really does.
Do you want to play in Washington? I mean, that's a bad question. I would play. If they offered me a minimum, I'd be there.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6, I have Karl Anthony Towns. 7, I have Alperen Şengün. 8, I have Isaiah Stewart, Beef Stew. 9, I have Isaiah Hartenstein. 10, I have Rudy Gobert. 11, I have Zubac. 12, I have Jared Allen. That's the first one where I was like, maybe there could be a case. But I think overall, with the better rim protection and the better scoring, I would lean Jared Allen. Then I have Joel Embiid. Again, 27 and 7. I put Donovan Clingan. He's putting up 12 and 12, 1 3 a game, 1.6 blocks. 15, I have Naz Reid. Like his scoring, rebounding. 16, I have Onyeka Okongwu, putting up very similar numbers. A little bit better of a rim protector and a little more switchable. Then I have Neemias Queta 17. And these are some guys that I think are like in the tier with Neemias Queta, but I put below. So Mitchell Robinson, Nick Claxton, Miles Turner, Wendell Carter Jr. And then there's the guys who have like just broken out at the same time as Neemias Queta. So it's hard to say which one's better, but like Kamara Malawach on the Suns, having a great year. Derek Queen on the Pelicans was in Rookie of the Year considerations. Moussa Diabate is having a great year for Charlotte Hornets. So I think there's like a conceivable list where he's in the 20 to 23 area.
So I have some qualms.
Yeah.
First of all, I
I'm
love
here
me
for
some
the
Derek Queen.
qualms.
Derek Queen's good. Naz Reid is not better than Neemias Queta.
Interesting.
I think he might win Sixth Man of the Year. He's not better than Neemias Queta. If we're doing by the center position, having that many fewer rebounds per game is a knock against you. Isaiah Hartenstein, out. Absolutely not. I think Isaiah Hartenstein is very, very good, has also played half the games that Queta has, and they have pretty similar numbers. And Neemias Queta is a better defensive player. Isaiah Stewart, I don't think I would put over Neemias Queta. In a vacuum, if you were like, who are you choosing as your starting center right now between the two of them, I would not pick Isaiah Stewart.
Isaiah Stewart might win Defensive Player of the Year this year. He's in the running for that and sixth man.
Yeah, I
That's
think Neemias Queta has anchored one of the most elite defenses in the league this year. His on-off, like a lot of this is also it's eye test in terms of individual stats. Like Neemias Queta can have 2 blocks and a steal in a game and nobody will blink an eye. But it's also the advanced analytics of like what does a defense look like with Neemias Queta on the floor versus off the floor? And again, the Celtics, who have built an identity around defense, are a shell of themselves without Neemias Queta. Still a great defensive team, but he is the anchor of their defensive identity.
how much of that though is the drop off to the next center? Because like when Naz
Luka
Reid
Garza's
isn't
our
on the
all-star.
floor, listen, there's no shame towards Luka Garza. He shouldn't be the second best player on. He shouldn't be the second best center on a team. That's all I'm saying. He's
When
a
we
third
win a
center.
title with Luka Garza as the second best center of our team, I expect you to eat some crow.
I'm
That's all
not
I'm
even
saying.
saying that can't happen. I'm not even saying that's impossible. But a lot of the guys you just named have better center options behind them. Like when Naz Reid isn't in the game, Rudy Gobert's in the game. So yeah, there isn't like a huge defensive drop off from one to the other. And that really helps you with advanced stats. Like a lot of teams we've seen before where they have kind of sold out for superstars and their bench is terrible, it'll really boost those superstars' advanced stats. Like I remember the first year LeBron went back to Cleveland. He had like some of the best advanced stats ever. He was the best player in the league, but they were measuring him over 37-year-old Richard Jefferson. And when you look at just
Richard
on-offs,
Jefferson, never forget Christmas Day, dunked on Klay Thompson and dunked on Kevin Durant, and it was great.
it was. He had some moments. But sometimes what the advanced stats are telling you is what the distance is between you and the guy that's replacing you off the bench. And I don't think it's a full picture unless you know who that guy off the bench is. Like, a great example is Jokic. His advanced stats are down this year. And part of it is that they got Jonas Valanciunas. So they're not just without a center when he goes to the bench now. They have, like, a reliable backup big man. And in past years, it was like Aaron Gordon would try to play center, or they had, like, old Dario Saric coming in.
Yeah.
Not even,
No,
like,
and listen,
prime
I'm
Dario
not
Saric. Yeah.
I think it's also we spent part of the season without a defined backup center. Let us never forget the Josh Minot era, the Ugo
All
at
right.
five era, the different lineups that we've had backing up Neemias Queta at the five. So I don't think it's necessarily always been like again, there was a month or so where Luka Garza did not play. I think what stayed stable and true throughout that whole time is when Neemias Queta is on the floor, like our defense is damn good towards the top of the league. And it's also, again, just the Isaiah Stewart, three fewer rebounds a game. Okongwu's a better scorer, but not as good a rebounder, not as good a defender, obviously not as efficient.
Defender, I might give a Conwell.
I think they're comparable,
Yeah.
but I think in terms of who's like anchoring an offense, or sorry, a defense.
Defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these guys, again, in a vacuum, like
It
a
also does
lot of
get
them,
close. Like I was
yeah,
saying, like the highest I could go is 12, the lowest is like 23. Like I think there's a pretty big kind of glut of like good starting centers in the league right now. And I think he's firmly worked his way into that. Which is kind of the most we could have expected from him.
Yeah, I think going into this season, the Celtics were across the league expected to have the worst front court in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think based on Kata alone, we have defied those expectations. And then we found pleasant surprises like Luka Garza. We were able to swing a deal for Vucevic, who played 10 games. But yeah, I think it's a huge testament that what we've been able to accomplish with him as our kind of anchor. He's had some great games, some nice scoring nights, some nice rebounding nights, some great like defensive nights. I just feel like if I'm starting an NBA team and you listed all the guys that you listed in Neemias Queta, there's just a couple more guys that I would pick Neemias Queta before I pick them. Like if I'm starting an NBA team, Isaiah Hartenstein is not going to be above Neemias Queta for me.
Isaiah Hartenstein's been good the last 2 years. I mean,
Yeah,
he was good with the Knicks
he's a
before that,
10
but
and 10 guy, and that's
he's a 12
fine.
and 12 guy.
Not this season in his 33 games played.
That's
I don't think
the
so.
availability is fair. No, that's all fair points. No, that's all fair. And I do think it's like very debatable, especially with the center position, because so many guys do different things at that spot.
Yeah,
Like you have like very offensive guys, very defensive guys, rebounding focused guys. I had trouble with the Miles Turner versus Neemias Queta, just because Neemias Queta is so much better of a rebounder than Miles Turner. But Miles Turner is able
can
to just
stretch the floor.
stretch out the floor with that 3 point shot. It really came down to just like I've seen too many games where Miles Turner has like not been aggressive in big moments. And Neemias Queta seems to kind of have that fight in him where he'll like go at guys and really try to make his point made. But it's close. Like him, Nick Claxton, it really came down to free throws. It's not always cut and dry with these guys. Where other positions, you could look at like a scoring guard and you can kind of look at the efficiency number.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to go to the next thing. I also didn't know where to put Alex Sarr on this list because he's having a good offensive year, but when you get 83 points scored on you and you
Yeah,
haven't
that's
played
kind of
defense 1 minute all year, I kind of have to take that into consideration. But
yeah, that's
come
something
on.
with the center position that again, like Nas Reed is a very different type of center
Yeah.
slash power forward than an Neemias Queta or anything, and that's why like when I was making my list, it was in a vacuum. I'm picking a center to start my team with, and I had Neemias Queta a little bit higher because I was like, yeah, he's a little bit more limited offensively. I think what he provides on defense more than makes up for it with the rebounding, with the blocks, with just his paint presence, but also he has a little bit of versatility. Obviously, he can't shoot the three ball, but Neemias Queta has been working on like a little baby hook, has been working on some post moves. He needs to stop turning the ball over, but he can learn offensive stuff. He's still only 20. He can learn some more like offensive finesse way sooner than a lot of the guys on that list will be able to learn defensive skills. And that
That's
also
true.
kind of factored into my decision.
Yeah. He'll learn that before Nas Reed learns to be 7'1".
Guaranteed.
I don't know. Nas Reed's trying. Speaking of getting better backup centers, we did make some pretty big signings this last
Oh my God, I
week.
almost forgot. Yep.
Yeah, we had some real home run dingers of signings. I want to start with Char. Charles Bassey. I think it was 2 weeks
Jeremy,
ago on this podcast.
your petition worked. We started a petition right
I
here.
said I was starting a movement
Yep.
to get Charles Bassey signed to a 10-day contract. And I thank you for all the support out there, because clearly it worked. The candlelight vigils outside of Brad Stevens' house,
Yep.
the letter writing
It was chilly, but
petitions.
we did it. It was worth it.
Yeah, we did it. It was really the community coming together to get Charles Bassey that 10-day contract. Like I said before, I like the signing. He played great in Summer League. He's just been destroying the G League. He's clearly not a G League player. Signed a couple 10 days that didn't work out with other teams, but I think he's a NBA caliber backup big man. He really rebounds, he really hustles. He's been able to score well around the rim. I think part of this is a lack of confidence in Amari Williams. Maybe not long term, but for this stretch while Vooch is out, just having another body in case Luka Garza or Neemias Queta get into foul trouble, just having a guy who can be plug and play and throw out there. Probably not a long-term fit. Like, I don't see him on the playoff roster, but I think he'll be a good stopgap over the next few weeks.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Now that we've done the marches, the candlelight vigils, filled out all those petitions, and we got what we wanted. Charles Bassey is a Boston Celtic. Do we expect him to ever touch the floor in his 10-day contract?
I think it'll be if one of our two bigs goes down for injury or foul trouble over the next few weeks, which has happened before. Luka Garza does love to get his fouls. And I could totally see, like, I just don't want to be, a Luka Garza sprained ankle away from disaster. That's not a great place to be. Right now, we're a little further from that, and that's important. I could even see him making a run at a roster spot next year. I think those will be a little tight, but he is a guy that's kind of been around the Celtics, played with us in different levels, and if he shows something over the next 2 weeks, then we've seen a ton of guys work their way onto the roster this year. Like maybe too many for another guy to do it. But yeah, he could make his way up there. The other signing we did, which is probably a more major move for a roster going forward, is we signed Max Shulga to a 2-year deal. So he'll be on the full-time roster this year and next year. We did a segment earlier on in the season about how he had taken out loans to get out of his EuroLeague contract and come over here. So there was a chance that if he didn't get this contract, he would have left the NBA in debt. So I am happy for him that that worked out and he is not having to pay his EuroLeague club back for the next few years.
Yeah, happy to have him on. If there's anything else the Boston Celtics needed, it's another white boy shooting guard. And yeah, so that was going to be you were talking about Charles Bassey, and you were like, yeah, roster spots might be tough to come by next year. I think Max Shulga is going to be one of the reasons why.
We haven't seen a ton from him, to be fair. Like, he's
No,
averaging, I think, 16 and 7, 7 assists in the G League this year. Not shooting it great from three. He's like a bigger point guard with some good passing IQ. Kind of have a lot of those big guards who can pass. Not entirely sure where he fits in. We haven't seen him play a ton with the pro squad this year. It seemed a little weird just because I know they were really high on John Tonje coming over. I thought he might be in competition for that second full-time spot. Obviously, I think that we have one more standard contract we need to sign before the end of the year. I obviously think it's going to go to Ron Harper. Like, he's been
yes.
clearly the preferred of those two-way guys all year. He's been playing over Max Shulga consistently, playing over a lot of the standard contract guys. He really played Jordan Walsh out of a roster or out of a rotation spot this year. So I would be really surprised if the second roster spot doesn't go to him.
Yeah, and that's where I saw the Max Shulga signing announced, and I was like, okay, so they're waiting for the finances to line up where we can offer Ron Harper his multi-year, fully guaranteed contract without going back over the luxury tax. I'm excited to get him on a multi-year deal because he's blown me away this year. A ton of guys on this team have blown me away this year. Max Shulga has not yet, but the way this team has been working, it would not surprise me if we just hit on everybody and then have some really difficult conversations next year. But I'm
And
looking
you
forward to
always got to
getting.
remember, Matt, Yam Madar is coming. There's,
Yes,
he's
we've had
probably
many,
not.
many off-mic conversations about Yam Madar.
Yam Madar, I believe he was a 2021 draft and stash guy who's the Celtics keep picking up his rights year after year. I don't see him actually coming over anytime soon. But yeah, just to kind of explain for the audience, the reason Max Shulga got signed before Ron Harper was like a purely cap situation where Max Shulga's a rookie this year. Ron Harper's technically a fourth year player because he was undrafted in 2022. So his minimum salary is actually a little bit higher than what Max Shulga is getting. So they're gonna end up signing him close to the last week of the year because we're very close to the tax line right now. Is this annoying at all to you, Matt? That like we've had to jump through like so many tiny hoops to stay under the luxury tax this year. I know the Minot one, the trading back in the draft and taking Amari Williams. Even after the big moves last season, there's just been so many like little kind of penny pinching moves around the edges this year that I get wanting to stay under the luxury tax. It is just a money thing. Like, there's no actual basketball advantage to staying under it. They kind of moved a lot of those penalties to the first apron when they redid the CBA the last like 2 years ago or a year ago. So it does feel weird to spend all this kind of like time and energy and roster moves just to kind of, save cash.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea is down the line after next season being under the tax 2 years in a row and getting out from that repeater tax will, in theory, next off season allow us to spend as much money as we want doing whatever we want, which that could be good. I think I was more frustrated at the deadline when we made those moves, like letting Minot go for nothing. I think I've found peace with it, but it's been very lucky because the only reason I've found so much peace with it is because we've seen the continued development of Ron Harper and Baylor Shireman and Ugo and Walsh has again been losing playing time lately. But looking at it now, I'm like, yeah, if we had kept Minot and stayed over the
He wouldn't
luxury
be
tax,
playing
we
right
wouldn't be
now.
playing.
He would
Yeah.
be a great injury replacement guy.
Yeah.
Like, he clearly was one of the best 15 guys on this roster.
Yeah, but we've got, at this point, I would say we've got 12 to 13 really good guys on this roster. And that's what's going to be so tough is we're going into the playoffs where that rotation is going to get shortened. Guys are going to lose playing time. And then it's going into next season that I'm really going to be worried because we're going to have to make some decisions. I think signing Max Shulga to a multi-year deal is interesting. Because I don't anticipate him, again, barring some freakish Celtics breakout, which we've had about five of this year. I don't see him making like the rotation necessarily. I think one of the other things that I am at a point of frustration with in terms of like money moves was trading back and drafting Amari Williams because I had high hopes for Amari Williams. He hasn't played.
I think
He's
Maxine
just
Renault's the one that's gonna come around to bite us in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing about Brandon Clark when we passed on him a few years ago, and that one hasn't really. But
And then him and Grant Williams had like identical careers.
yeah, no, but I just think again, Vucevic will be back sooner rather than later, and we will have three very solid NBA centers again. But right now, just kind of looking at our depth chart and being like, yeah, if Queta is out for whatever reason, like we're just playing small because I don't think we trust Amari Williams to play like NBA minutes right now, especially like this close to the playoffs. We're trying to really find our rhythm and find guys who are going to play, get them working together and building their chemistry. And it feels like again, maybe he comes back next season. He's forgotten how to turn the ball over and he's going to be great. And I hope that happens. But this season, it's a little bit of a disappointment. And knowing that it was purely like financially motivated as well.
Yeah, I mean, we also don't get Max Shulga if we don't trade back. So keep that in mind. That was a 1 for 4. We don't get him. We don't
Here's
get the
I'm going to
pick
ask you
we
something.
traded for
And this
John
may be
Tonje. What are you gonna ask me?
mm-hmm. John Tonje, whose name I will not remember in 5 years.
You never know.
But I wanted to ask you this
Yeah.
for Max Shulga, for a nickname. You tell me if this is insensitive or not.
Okay.
For a nickname for Max Shulga, the
Against
Ukrainian
Ukrainians,
bomber.
if he shot threes, I would say maybe. But
Okay,
since he
that's great. Yeah, his
doesn't,
three-point
it feels
percentage
like we're.
hasn't justified it. Yeah,
It does feel like we're kind of reaching. Um,
yeah.
I think if he
But
was a
I'm like,
shooter, maybe
what if the Celtics turn Max Shulga into like a Ukrainian hero? That feels
that'd
like a
be
pretty good
cool.
outcome.
That'd be a good
Yeah.
story.
To all our
Listen,
Ukrainian fans out there, keep
I'm
up the
not
fight.
giving up on Max Shulga. He's a big point guard who plays defense and can really hit a roll man and pick and roll. And those are skills that do translate usually to the NBA. I think he's shooting like 32.5% from three, which if he can get that up 2-3 percentage points, then he could probably be like a bench point guard in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's got some guys in front of him, but with the way this season has played out, I guess anything is possible. Um,
I do
and
feel like we do have a habit of talking about the least meaningful storylines around the Celtics team. Like I think we spent 30 seconds on Jaylen Brown's 41 points, and then we're just like, let's do a deep dive into Max Shulga for the end of this podcast. We really want to end on a high note,
yeah, we
doing a
do.
player
Well,
analysis of Max Shulga.
here's the thing is if you go back through all of our 50 plus episodes, we've spent plenty of time talking about Jaylen Brown scoring. This is the first time Max Shulga has been relevant, really. So giving
Except
him his
point,
little moment in the
yeah,
sun.
we did talk about him when he took out that loan, but
Yeah.
we're talking about Max Shulga finances at one point, so it could be worse.
Yeah, listen, we've got some good games coming up. We're playing the Warriors. And then I think do we have the Timberwolves on Saturday?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Friday?
so we've got some good games coming up. Do you want to make any predictions going into these two?
And I think we win both, and I
Hmm.
think there's like a brief moment where we think we can get the one seed, and then it's like ripped away from us the last week of the year.
I don't hate that prediction. I mean, I hate it for us, but I think that's a fair prediction. My prediction is there are at least three camera panovers to a sad-looking Al Horford on the Warriors bench.
Is he not playing?
He might be, but when he's not in the game, he's going to be
He's
watching
going to
us
be sad no matter
decimate the
what.
Warriors. Yeah. And he'll just be like, oh, what could have been?
He's got his old buddy KP over there. We get to see both of them.
Yeah. I want more answers on what he meant with that vague ass statement the last time we played them, where he was like, there were a lot of reasons why I had to leave Boston.
I don't know. I think he was just put on the spot. I think he doesn't want to come out and say it was because I thought I could win. I had a better chance of winning here.
Yeah.
Because then he kind of looks dumb for, like, a lot of old guys think that other old guys are better at basketball than they are. Like, we always see it when LeBron gets to pick his teammates. You know, he brings in Russell Westbrook and Richard Jefferson and Rondo, even though Rondo kind of worked out. But old guys
Yeah.
like playing with other old guys. And he saw an opportunity to play with Steph and Jimmy Butler and Draymond. And he was like, oh, that team's going to be unstoppable. And then they kind of weren't. So it's weird for him to say, like, oh, I thought I could win here at this point when their season's been a little disappointing.
They're getting carried by Gary Payton and Pods.
Not bad.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to those games. I think Minnesota is going to be a fun test for us just because we have had some struggles against the more like elite teams in the league, those top seeds in each conference, which Minnesota is, still fighting for good positioning in the West, but I think they have a talented enough basketball team to make some noise in the playoffs, so I think that'll be a good little like
It'll also
not
be
practice run, but
It'll be an interesting matchup, just because there's always been kind of an Ant Jaylen Brown dynamic of kind of like who's the best like American shooting guard. They've both gotten some MVP buzz. I actually think Ant's going to be out now that I'm thinking of it. He's got like 2 weeks with a knee soreness, but they still have like big physical wings. Jalen McDaniels and
start shit with everybody where it's like Ant has a thing with SGA and Ant has a thing with Luka Doncic and
he
Ant
just
has a thing with
released
some of the old heads.
yeah they just released a rivalry video about him and Obama. When you're
Yeah,
beefing
that's
with
because I
Obama,
think
that's
he played Obama in
Yeah,
pickup at All-Star Weekend, and they were talking about it. Um,
we can leave it
Shout
there.
out Barry, shout out Ukraine, shout out Charles Bassey and
See,
Brad Stevens for listening to the Candlelight Vigils.
Jules.
Shout out Celtics Nation. Let's go win a couple more.
Yeah, thanks, Brad, for always tuning in. Your support really helps. See y'all next time.